tag. So Shawn, the book maniac, nominated me and a few other people to do this tag, and I have to say, when I first saw it, I was quite impressed. It is a juicy, very interesting tag. Provided me a lot of thinking, so thank you very much for that, Shawn, and hopefully I do this right. So in one of my last videos, I did another tag, and it was the modern literary canon tag that Russell from Ink and Paper had put up. And in that, Shawn had made mention that that some of my favorite books that were on there were not his, but there were some crossover. And I had replied that actually my favorite books weren't necessarily on the list, just some authors that I thought were pushing everything forward. But today I do have some authors that I love, and I'm going to try to link up a book that I love with an author that you love. So let's see if I can do this. Okay. Oh, let's have at it. So the very first book that I'm going, the pairing I'm going to try to make, or the bridge I'm going to build, is between An Unnecessary Woman by Robbie Alameddine with this beautiful folio edition that I have of Excellent Women by Barbara Pym. So I know that you are a huge Barbara Pym fan, so I'm going to try to link these up. Okay, and this gives me a chance to show off my gorgeous folio society edition, which I love very much. Okay, so let's start. An Unnecessary Woman is the story of an older woman living in modern-day Beirut. She lives alone. She's an older woman. She's isolated purposefully, so she's an introvert. And she's also an obsessive about books and literature. Can't imagine anyone being that way. So she loves, is devoted to work, and her work is translating. So she's been translating these works of classic literature for years. And so this is she's at a point in her life where some things are precipitating a change. And so she's having to kind of struggle with what her future is going to look like. It is an absolutely beautiful, poignant, lovely, lovely book. It has a lot of questions of aging and following your heart and your passion, doing what you do because you love it, and also community, and what is community and versus what is solitude, and it also is during the time of war and how war has impacted Beirut, and the impacts that has had on her. So highly recommended. I really love that book. I would show you a copy, but my aunt actually hurt herself, and she was laid up in the hospital, and I sent her a bunch of books, and that was one of the books that I sent her. And I'm happy to say that she's on the mend now. So. But I sent her my copy because I wanted her to read it. So with that said, so that's my first book. I'm going to link it to what is fundamentally my favorite book, which is 84 Charing Cross Road. This is a backless book. This one was published in 1970. And this one was given to me by a dear friend, Ron, and it actually has an a signature by Helen Holmes. It says, "Greetings to a book lover," which is one of the ways that she was known for doing her signature. So this is a prized possession of mine that I love dearly. So 84 Charing Cross Road. So this is an epistolary memoir from a woman who lived in New York City, and who started a correspondence with Marks & Co., which is a bookseller in Charing Cross Road, at 84 Charing Cross Road. And the bookstore actually did exist there, and she ended up having this wonderful relationship, witty, funny, lovely, touching relationship with not just one of the main people who work at that bookstore, but also a cast of characters of the other people, as well as the families. It is a warm book. It is a book that reminds you of the power of generosity, the way that literature and books bring people together. The irony is, I'm not a big nonfiction lover, and yet this is a nonfiction book, and most of the books that she is seeking out are nonfiction books. But her love of her Anglophile spirit and her love of reading and the passion with which she seeks these books out, and the tenderness with which she talks about receiving them and how they're the most beautiful things she's ever touched, and the smell of them, and this is a book lover's book, and so I talk about this a lot. In fact, I host on the 1st of every year, so January 1st every year, I host a read along, a buddy read of this book. I do it on Instagram and Litsy because I really would love more readers to read this. This is a backlist. It's not in publication right now, so you have to hunt for it. But I think it's so worth it. So 84 Charing Cross Road by Helene Hanff. And so the connection between this and An Unnecessary Woman is because the love of literature and the obsessiveness of wanting to be around books and with books and all of that. So that's that connection. So next I'm going to connect it to another book. This is Nancy Mitford's The Pursuit of Love. So Nancy Mitford, I have a video coming out that I'm going to release soon on the Mitford sisters, because I listened to an audiobook about them, and man, that is one bizarre and polarizing family. 7 children, 6 daughters, and almost every single one of those 6 daughters did something bizarre and extreme with their lives. So, but let's get back to this. So Nancy Mitford, this is The Pursuit of Love. So this is, I think it's her 2nd book, but it's her most lauded book. And it's semi-autobiographical once you understand the backstory of an aristocratic family and the search for romance, and it's interesting cast of characters. She's got a tremendously sharp wit that'll come up later, and so this is if you've never read any Nancy Mitford, this would be a great one to start with. And the reason I can draw a connection between the two of these is because she wrote to a bookstore in London, and that was the framing of most of majority of these letters. And Nancy Mitford, despite being of the aristocracy, she actually worked at Haywood Hills, which is the bookshop of the Queen, and that is in London. And so they have that in common. Okay, so now I've got to make a connection between this and something else. So the connection I'm going to make is between The Pursuit of Love and my next folio society edition. This is Brideshead Revisited, which is by Evelyn Waugh. So this is a very, very lovely book, lovely edition. This book is about a family and that gets involved in a love triangle. And you've got issues of Catholicism and homosexuality and conformity and nonconformity, all done in this melodrama type of story with an acerbic wit and so it's very good, very well known, and there have been many editions of it made into miniseries and the like. I think one of the biggest things in this book, and what will allow me to link it to the next, is the love triangle between, or I should say, we'll link these two, is that they actually were frenemies. So there's a new book which I've got to read, or it may not even be that new, but there's a book I need to read that has the letters that they sent back back and forth, Evelyn Waugh and Nancy Mitford. And they both were known for their rapier wit, for this sharp, snarky, really posh sense of taking some people down. And so they have this kind of frenemy relationship, and because they were contemporaries, and they were kind of thought of in similar veins for their books. So that's how I connect this with this. So Pursuit of Love connects to Brideshead Revisited that way. So now my next connection will be between Brideshead Revisited, move my cup, and The English Patient. What? So the way I'm able to do this is because at the heart of this story is, I mentioned, the love triangle. And one of the main characters, Sebastian, Lord Sebastian, was in love with Charles. Charles toyed with or was affectionate with. He was basically a social climber, and he definitely played into and leveraged his relationship with Sebastian to go to Brideshead and to be ingratiated with the family, and he ended up falling in love with Sebastian's sister. And so that love triangle and painful betrayal was very evident in Brideshead Revisited, and it's also in the next book, which is Michael Ondaatje's The English Patient. And I just love this. I got this when I was in London. I just love that cover. I think it's so stunning. So this won the Man Booker Prize for Fiction. I think they did a 25-year, what was the best book that came out. And The English Patient won. The English Patient is a very interesting story. There's multiple timelines. There's multiple characters. It's very lush. It's that way that he writes, which is very atmospheric and very poetic. At his heart, Michael Ondaatje seems to be a poet and has written some poetry, and so that comes through in his novels. And this has some massive betrayal. That's not a spoiler, but betrayal of the highest magnitude happens in this. Both love betrayal and betrayal of other ways. I won't spoil. And so that's how these two connect. And then that's going to bring us in maybe tenuous ways. We'll have to see. You'll have to tell me what you think, Shawn. To Barbara Pym. So the way I'm doing this, this might be a bridge too far. So in this book, the characters were explorers and in North Africa, and so they were going out there, and there was a lot of cartography and trying to map out what was happening in Cairo and North Africa, in the Sahara. And Barbara Pym was a love of anthropology. She loved and featured anthropologists. So these people who are willing to go out there and, in essence, maybe not map from a cartographer's perspective, but try to map the connections of how cultures work. We'll see if that works. So that was something that she loved. And so in many of her stories, she has anthropologists featuring as key characters. And so in this one, the main characters are anthropologist Helena and her husband Rocky. And so that's how I'm drawing the connections between them. So I don't know. How did I do, Shawn? Please let me know. But this was a great exercise. I thank you so much for the opportunity to play the game, and thanks for watching.